Well, good to have you with us here on the Christmas edition, the Friday edition of the South African Morning here on the eNCA. I hope you're having a wonderful morning so far with your family on this Christmas morning. Having a car crash, never want to talk about it, but it could happen. It's a stressful experience at the best of times, but what happens, here's the question, what happens if it takes place during the curfew? First of all, why were you driving during the curfew? But let's say it does happen. What's going to happen with your insurance company? Well, let's speak to an expert about this. Christelle Colman has been very kind this Christmas morning from Old Mutual Insure to wake up and stop unwrapping presents for just a few moments for me. Christelle, good morning to you. Merry Christmas. Answer that question for me. What happens if I bang my car during curfew?
Well, I think, Gareth, first and foremost, it's very important to remember that the insurance industry subscribes to something called treating customers fairly. So even though curfew is something that is expected of us not to be on the roads, we do understand as insurers, and I can only speak on behalf of Old Mutual Insure, that there are reasons why people would be out on the road, whether it's an emergency, whether it's getting to and fro from work. So we've adopted the approach to say that if you are involved in a car accident during curfew hours, we would most certainly look at the circumstances first before we even consider rejecting claims. And I think it's important to mention that because it's been all over social media at the moment, is that people are saying insurance companies will reject your claim if you're out during the curfew hours in your car. And I don't think that's entirely correct. Yes, the reason why we're speaking this morning then.
It really is, because how much of a change has the insurance industry had to make as far as how they're covering our vehicles are concerned, whether it's due to the curfew or whether it's the fact that most people are not driving as far and as often as they normally would? From your perspective, perhaps from Old Mutual's perspective, how much leeway has there been between what you're seeing happening day to day, but also still having to run a business as Old Mutual, aren't you?
Yes, well, for us, it's obviously been a very interesting double-edged sword because, yes, we have seen a reduction in road accidents. I mean, during the first month of hard lockdown, we saw a dramatic increase in the motor accident results. But at the same time, we've also seen all over the social media and the business interruption for claims for the hospitality sector. So whilst there was some ground gained on the one side, there's been huge reserves kept for the business interruption claims. But having said that, we've also been forced to innovate very suddenly. You know, Old Mutual as a group has got thousands of employees. We had to go off-site within 3 days, and we've had to adapt our product offering. So, for instance, we now offer a product through WhatsApp, a chat bot, where you can submit your kilometers driven for the month and get an immediate reduction on your motor insurance premium. Because we saw people all of a sudden who had to drive to and from work are now just working from home, and it's still like that. I mean, we haven't seen a huge shift in that, and we expect that to reduce again as we go into the new year with possible further restrictive measures being imposed on us.
Let's just come back to the question then of the insurance under curfew or insurance of your vehicle during curfew. Christelle, if we can, let's use me as an example. I don't like picking on viewers, so let's use me as an example. I'm out after 11 p.m. I do have an incident with my vehicle. I've maybe hit a pothole or I've driven through a robot, I've hit a pavement. Any one of those various factors can take place. What is the insurance company, in your case, Old Mutual, what are you going to require from me? Because my immediate thought would be, as an essential worker in the media industry, I would have a certificate. But let's say I don't have that certificate. What is the insurance company going to need from me in order to successfully claim for damage during the curfew period?
So, Gareth, what we use is something called a materiality. We look at if the circumstances of your loss was material to the claim. With other words, if you were out on the road, you're outside of curfew hours and the same incident happened, would we then have paid the claim? And if the answer is yes, we would just pay the claim. I mean, we've adopted that position to say that we will ask you why were you on the roads. If you've got a plausible reason for being on the roads, whether it is an emergency, a family emergency, a medical emergency, and of course, whether it was work-related, we will then consider the claim, because it's unfair towards the client to just reject the claim because it happened during curfew hours. That is most certainly not what we will do, but we will ask the question, Why were you out on the road during curfew hours? And then something else that needs to be considered is we are moving towards this end date of a 0% blood alcohol limit. That is something that people need to be very aware of, because once those regulations are rolled out and implemented, insurance companies will implement and adopt a 0% blood alcohol limit. So I say that because it's Christmas period, it's holiday season, it's New Year's Eve. Don't be out on the roads drinking, driving during curfew hours, because then you will have a problem if you submit a claim.
Okay, that's fascinating. I'd like to pick up on that for a moment, Christelle, if we can. So if I understood you, with this new 0 alcohol limit for driving, and I couldn't agree more, for the record, I could not agree more, 0 alcohol limit for drivers. There's no need to be driving when you've been drinking. Are you suggesting then that this could impact your insurance claim directly? Before, you would have had to have proven that you were over a certain limit, not just from a legal perspective, but also what is manageable for a vehicle. You're now saying that this, if this comes into place, if there's anything above 0 in your blood system from an alcohol perspective, it could affect your insurance and whether it's paid out or not.
It not just could, it would absolutely, yes. The insurance policy that you have with your insurance company is a legal contract, and it follows all the laws of South Africa, to put it quite simply. So if the law is changed to 0% blood alcohol and you're involved in an accident, whether you were responsible or not, and your blood is tested and found to have alcohol in it, your claim will be rejected.
That's fascinating.
It's a serious situation. Even if you go to the Ombudsman, there will be a very little room to maneuver if that's the case. So I agree with you, Gareth. It is one of the best decisions, I think, especially if you look at the huge fatalities we have on our roads, that this is the right move. But people will have to be very aware. You can't even have that half a glass of champagne after work. Not that we do much of that at the moment. But if we go back to a more normal life and you're involved in an accident, your claim will be rejected. So it's you stare financial ruin into the face. Rather make sure that you get an electronic cab service, or your insurance companies. Most insurance companies today offer these drive me home safe services where they send someone out with another vehicle to come and collect you in your car and take you home. So you really don't have any excuse for driving under the influence, even if it is just one glass of wine.
No, I agree completely. There are so many options these days. Normally, my glass of champagne after work is in the lounge, which is where I was sitting and working anyway. So I've walked all of 5 feet to the fridge to get a champagne. Christelle Colman, thank you so much. I know it's a Christmas morning and you were very kind to speak to us here on eNCA. Go and continue unwrapping your presents. 2 very, very important things that you need to remember is driving within the curfew hours. Your insurance company will potentially still cover you if you can justify why you were driving during curfew. So it's not as if you're driving in curfew, you have an accident they won't cover. They're going to ask why you were driving. And that last point by Christelle, and I'm sure we'll pick up on this here on eNCA, the 0 alcohol blood limit. If that comes into play, not only could your insurance not cover you, whether it's your accident or not, if there's any alcohol in your system, if this new law is passed, your insurance company is most definitely not going to cover your insurance claim. And this